So my name is Bashiru Ismaila. This is my wife, Esther Ismaila. We've been married for 17 and a half years about. We are both doctors. I am a surgeon and my wife is a community physician. And yeah. Okay, we were students in the University of Jos, both in the Department of Medicine, and I'd seen her a few times, but I think when I really remember or noticed was in the bus, in the school bus, and so I think that's when we met. We greeted out. I kind of supervised the bus running, so we usually picked her along the way, and I remember just telling myself that I think she'll make a good wife for someone, but I never thought it was me. But we were friends after that, so we talked, we got along, and somehow, I guess for me, the friendship kept getting deeper. So thinking of something else. Then towards just before my final exams in medical school, not too long before, I asked her whether I could start a relationship, and she told me she told me she wanted to think about it. So later on, after my exams, she told me no, but that she didn't want to tell me so I wouldn't fail my exams. And I remember telling her that if she had told me, I'd have read a lot more. I'd probably gotten distinctions. Because anyway, so then I think somewhere along the line, started house job. Now that became difficult because we're kind of supposed to be still friends, but trying to find that middle ground between being rejected and still being friends, but not that you're still friends, but not the kind of friend that didn't get the message, but the kind of friend that got the message, but doesn't feel too bad, but is still a friend. So kind of hung around that one for a while, and then she had a change of heart. So I think that was the 30th January, in 30th June, sorry, not January, 30th June 2000. Then we started going out. She said yes, and so that's about 21 years now, almost. So and a couple of things we agreed on, and we talked about 5 things actually. One, that we were Christians and we didn't want to bring God's name into disrepute, so that we should conduct our relationship that way, and so that it would bring glory to God, and that we wanted to be an example of what a Christian relationship would be like, and so we wanted God to use us that way, and we needed to communicate, so we needed to be able to tell each other what it was and what we were feeling at every point in time. So we needed to have a good communication. Then it was okay for anybody to call it quits at any point. We felt that if one person wanted to quit and the other person didn't want to, then both of us would just end up suffering. That was just easier to just let it out. Then the final thing we agreed on was that no premarital sex. We didn't want to bring shame and dishonor to God's name. And I think that were about 5 things. So. And then that was our journey. And let's see something.
Yes, so from the beginning, okay. I remember meeting him when I was I remember seeing him when I was in 200 level, and he was this person. Whenever we attended meetings, very opinionated. I know wanting always to share his views about things. And I was like, who is this? not knowing that he was very, very passionate about a lot of issues and would always want to share his views. And so how I got to know him better was during the the JUMSA, the medical students elections, when he was running for Director of Social and Welfare. And, they'd go around campaigning and would be like, oh, he would go unopposed. And so we just got talking. And at a point, because of his names, I was like, this guy is very nice. But I don't know, I'm not sure, Lord, whether he's a Christian. But I really, really like him. I really like his disposition to life, the way he relates with people. And he's, just a nice person. But then I now got the shock of my life when I went for a one of my friends, who is his classmate, invited me for a navigator meeting. Navigators is a fellowship. Then we were students. We used to hold it in staff quarters. And she invited me over. And I went, my first time. And there he was. And so in my mind, I was like, what's he doing here? And then I was like, oh, maybe he's just a visitor like me. Not knowing he'd been there like years before me. His own friends too had invited him over. And they had been attending. And so during the meeting, I realized he was sharing, deep thoughts about God. So I now realize this is not just somebody who just knows God on the surface. This is somebody who has a deep relationship with God. And I just realized, I want to know this guy better. So that's how we now, we talk about things of God. He's very intelligent. So he is. He's very intelligent. So sometimes he would even teach me in school and everything. Just try to just interact. So that's how we got to know each other. And we now found that we were attending the same church. And so sometimes after church, we would stay behind and talk and just get to know each other. So in the story of my saying no, God actually prevailed on me. I realized I said no out of fear. Fear of the unknown. Because I had just broken up from a relationship about a year or so. 1 year, 3 months before. And I really didn't want anything to do with anybody, any guy anymore. But it was the Lord who just said I should step out in faith. He gave me some Bible verses and confirmed it several times. That I should just step out in faith and trust him and start the relationship and see where it goes. And that his hand is in it. And so I said yes. And then what even confirmed it and made it even stronger for me, he mentioned some 5 things we had talked about. Actually, the 5th one he mentioned about the purity, sexual purity in our relationship was actually the first thing. And he was the one that brought it up. And immediately he said that, it was like, Lord, you've just confirmed this for me I've always wanted someone who would share the same views as me. So I will not be struggling in the relationship. Maybe I want to keep myself pure. He doesn't, and then we're struggling. Or he wants to keep himself pure. I don't. And then we're struggling. And he just brought it up. And I think God just honored that and has helped us until we got married. Yeah. So,
how did you ask?
How were you sure that she was the
Okay.
one?
Well, how did that? Well, let me start with how I was sure, because it wasn't like kind of burning bush kind of experience. I mean, I didn't. There goes your wife. No, but I had always prayed. There were 2 things I had prayed about, and a decision I had taken. I think it was all or none. God either brings the kind of person he wants me to marry my way. I probably wouldn't get married. That was the first thing. And I said, if he was the person, then I'll just love her unconditionally. And now I didn't know what love was, to be sincere. But after Esther and I met, I realized I liked her a lot. I really liked her a lot. And that like kept increasing. And I think I can remember, I think just before I think I went for youth service also, And after that, well, I never really knew what love was, but I had written a letter that I liked her a lot. I thought about her a lot, and I always wanted everything that was good for her, even if it wasn't me. But I mean, that's how much I liked her. And if I felt that way about someone, then it must be love, because I mean, I had read and even in the Bible that that's what love was. But so I think this,
remember that letter.
yeah. So I thought that I really, I could say it kind of sticks to my throat then, because I didn't know what love was. I was brought up not to show my emotions. So, but I really loved her. It's easier to say now, love you. so, and then, so that was it. I had the feeling that I always love her, that God will give me the ability to love the person through the thick and thin. But I like that, and I think over these years, yeah, we've really been close for about almost 21 years now, and I think that's been the common denominator. I love her. Whether I feel like it, I don't feel like it. Whether I think she deserves it, I don't think she deserves it. When she drives me crazy and it makes me angry, I still realize that I love her, and I think that was it. And I think I always will, and that was the prayer that God, the person He wanted me to marry, I'll love her unconditionally, and I think yeah, I love Esther unconditionally. And it's just been like that. I can't explain it, and that's why I think it's something beyond me as an individual, because and so that way I know that she's the one. So the asking part, now that was a feat because yeah, it was something I thought and I prayed about. We shared a lot of things in common, just like he said. We got talking a lot and really talked about so many things. And I remember I just felt, yeah, that I needed to tell her how I felt. And again, for me, like I said, I went to military school. Family I came from, we don't share emotions, so it was tough. It's probably one of the toughest things I've ever done. And so I met her, and I told her, she'll probably say she saw it coming, but and I told her how I felt, and that I wanted us to start a relationship, and I was something like that. I mean, you really can't remember how you said it, but it never quite comes out as you planned. But I think she got the message though. And then she told me she was going to think about it. And so it took a while, like I said earlier. And then and there was this day. Now my favorite food is pounded yam. So there was this day she invited me, and she said, so okay, my lips are sealed. Okay, now, okay. I mean, my favorite food is pounded yam. So, and so she invited me over. And Father Yam was fantastic. I still remember. So and I thought everything was perfect because I mean, what could go wrong? My favorite girl, my favorite food. It was a good day. And then she said, remember that thing you asked me? About a question you asked me. I said I wanted to think about. I said I was eating, and I said, well, I've thought about it, and the answer is no. And yeah, I lost my appetite. But it wasn't that nice anymore. And well, I remember telling her that we were there. I mean, she kept going as if nothing had happened, and I wasn't feeling too fine. So I told her now, I'm sorry. I didn't feel like eating anymore. I needed to go. So, and she said, no, it's okay. And, she even escorted me. And I got home. And I remember I was really sad. And I went back to my room. I was staying in the hostel then. So I went and I lay down. on my bed, and I turned towards the wall, feeling upset and sorry for myself and all men in general about the things that we needed to go through. Then I remember I had prayed, and I had prayed, oh God, if it's not your will, let it not work. So while I was lying there, really feeling sorry for myself, the thought came and said, what if it was not God's will? And I didn't like that thought at first. This one, I thought it should have been God's will, but then I remember sitting up and saying, well, yeah, not my will, but your will. And if it's not, so I just got up and I went to my friend's place. Now, a lot of them knew that I was going to ask. So then when I got there, so they asked me, how did it go? I said, it didn't go too well. So they thought I was joking because I didn't look as miserable as they thought I would be. And they said, no, what's wrong? I said, no. She said, no. I said, no, you're joking. You're pulling her legs. I said, no. She said, no. I said, how come you don't look so sad? I said, I was not too long ago, but I just realized it may not be God's will. So they were upset and said all sorts of things. What do girls want in general? And everything like that. And one of the other things they told me later on was that they kept watching me for a while and they're wondering, they're actually trying to take a decision whether they should go back and beg her on my behalf. So I think I know she's the one because she's been an answered prayer. I've really not been close to anyone before. And she was what I asked, that God would give me a love that supersedes what I have always had for her. And he's done that. And I tell her that I think I love her more, 21 years later than I did then. However possible that is, but that's how I feel it every day. I just realize it's not about what she does or what she doesn't, what she wouldn't do or what she doesn't do, but just that there's this love that God has given me for her that I don't think anything will change.
So, how was this second time? How did you ask her out the second
No,
time?
I didn't
Okay,
ask.
so let me tell you that story.
Okay.
So, I was preparing for exams. I think third MB. That's where we write ONG pediatrics.
Yeah, the exams before the last
exams
one.
before the last
Was in
exams.
medical school.
And I was reading upstairs somewhere in the school then. And this particular Sunday, I just couldn't concentrate. It was like the Lord saying, you need to go and tell him the decision you've made, will I say rescinded, or you've changed your decision about the relationship. And I struggled with it. I was like, but it will look as if I am going to be the one going to, ask him out. I said, Lord, I don't think that's right. He said, no, he had already asked you out. You've only changed your mind. So I now went downstairs, went to my friend, who was his classmate, her room. And this is what I told her. And she was like, oh, great. Oh, this is great. Why don't you go up to his room right now and go and tell him? And I was like, Joy, I'm not sure that's a good idea. She said, okay, no, if you don't think it's right, let's pray. So she now brought in I was like, okay, let's pray. So the two of us prayed together. And then she sent me, go to his room, go and tell him this decision you've made. And so I went to his room. Then he was staying with another classmate of his because he hadn't gotten a room during a house job. So he was squatting. So I went to our friend's room and asked to see whether he was around. I wanted to see him. And he told me, no, like you had gone out, he had gone out. But that he thinks he should be back soon. So in my mind, I was like, oh, so I don't have to do this. And so while I was talking with our friend, in he walks. And it was like God telling me, so go ahead now. So our friend gave us some privacy. And I just told him, well, I just feel the Lord laying in my heart that I shouldn't be afraid and that we could start the relationship. That I just felt my saying no was out of fear and not trusting God. And that's, but if he had changed his mind about me, of course I wouldn't blame him and everything. So he said, when his answer was, oh, he's so happy. This is one of the best news he's heard and everything. And then he now gave, but I don't want us to sin against God by having sex with each other before marriage. And then the other 4 things that he mentioned earlier. And then we just prayed about it and our journey began. Wonderful.
Yeah, the world was okay again.
It's been a wonderful journey.
Yeah, one of the things my friend said, because they asked me, they kept asking me, why don't you go back if you feel this way? I said, Esther and I are Christians, and our yes is our yes, and our no should be our no. And if Esther says no, then, and she's a Christian, her no is no. I think I needed to respect that, so just that she mentioned that.
And I think it helped. So he wouldn't be coming back asking, going around me. I think it helped to, clear my head and helped me to be able to hear God's voice clearly. I should go back.
So, what did you propose?
How did you
Propose.
I had my proposal. What? I had.
his room?
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, you can tell
Go
me.
ahead.
No, I can't. Well, it was my house job now. The other
Your
room,
house job,
yeah, downstairs. I I got a ring. But I told her, right from the beginning, that I didn't think I could start a relationship that didn't really have any purpose. And so if we're starting a relationship now, it meant that ultimately I was hoping that we'll get married. And it's also possible that may not be God's plan, but this is my intention. And I know I got, so I know some, I can't remember how exactly when now, but I think I think it was a year later, I looked for a ring and I got one. So I asked her over to come, and I think I had it in a box or something like that. And I'd spent the whole day trying to think of the best way to do it. So, but I just said I had something for her, and she was wondering what it was. And then I opened it and I said, will she marry me? And I think, she laughed and she cried a bit. And then she said, yes, she'll marry me. And I think we now realized the ring was too big. And she said, no problem. And she put it on. And something like that.
So how do you remember it?
Yeah, that was it. That was basically it. Yeah, and I just felt so happy. I was shocked. It wasn't like, no, I need to think about it again. So that was it.
So your advice to young people that are dating, looking to get married? Yes.
Well, I don't think there's any. This is the advice I have. I don't think there's any standard way of getting to know who the person is. But I think you need to be honest with God and honest with yourself. And if you want God to show you, and you really want Him to show you, He will. And you will know whichever way it is. But that's where the problem comes, because when you're not honest with yourself, sometimes God shows you, but you had other plans, and then or you look for excuses. But so God chose you. So I think it's a different ways. I just wanted somebody that I really love, and that love will never change. And I've experienced that. She prayed. She had some verses, and God kind of confirmed them over and over again. And so that's the so you need to know God, and God, you know how He relates with you, and how, so that when He does things for you, or He says things to you, then you really understand that He's the one talking. So that's first, that relationship with God and honesty with Him, and also with yourself, and then just go for it. If you believe God is leading, just go for it. And I also don't believe in trying to bully people because you think God is speaking to you. God can also speak to them. And so whatever, God is patient, and love is patient too. God is love. And so even if the person doesn't think you are the one at that point in time, I don't think there should be any hassles and everything. The same God that you believe told you, has revealed that to you, can also reveal it to that person. So I don't think there's any need for any pressure or anything. And then after that, define your relationship. What's the purpose of your relationship? If it's without a purpose, then why do you need the relationship? So I think you define the relationship. And I think for us, in our context, in our time and context, I think if you're thinking about a serious relationship with anyone, then you should be thinking about marriage. And so that'll help you with the timing, that'll help you with your plans, and that'll help you with the purpose of what you're doing. And then be honest with each other. And one of the things that people didn't like hearing was, how could you say anybody was free to quit at any point in time? But when we discuss it critically, if you're honest, then you say the truth all the time. And if part of the truth was that, this relationship wasn't working out the way we planned, then that was the truth. And I think if we both heard the truth, whoever it was that felt that way, it was better for us now or whenever it was, than in the long run just keep suffering and pushing ourselves that wasn't really going to work. And
Just to add to what you said, it's important that as Christians we keep ourselves pure, sexually pure, because when we don't, we drag God's name in the mud, and we don't have a testimony to share with younger people who may be struggling about what the world is saying about sexual purity is a myth or a mirage. It can be done with God's help. And so what God helped us do, apart from defining our relationship at the beginning, what God helped us do was to put boundaries up. So whenever I went to visit him in his room, although he shared the flat with another classmate who was male, anytime I was in his room, the door would be open as per. So even if we wanted to try anything, anybody can walk in and see, okay? And so we did that. Then we also try not to keep late nights together, and then or stay in dark corners together or something, okay? We'll be out in the open with other people, with our friends, okay? Then even when I went to visit him when he was serving in Kebbi, he put me up with one of his female corper friends. So I didn't stay in his room. So that was also like a boundary, a safeguard against any sexual temptation that would come up. Another thing, and then we also told ourselves, no kissing, no heavy, petting, and even touching, there should be some limits to that, because one thing could lead to another, and before you know it, you've sinned against God and against each other.
No.
No, there are no boundaries.
Love it.
Subscribe.
Thank you so much.